everybody, this is Anna with the Paint Mixer. Happy Saturday. Thanks for joining us today with today's painting, which is Spring Blossom, this awesome kind of cherry blossom tree. So for those of you who have your Creativity to Go kit, now's a good time to kind of prep your space. In the kit, there's some butcher paper. So it should be wrapped up kind of like this. So now's a good time to spread this out over the surface you'll be painting on. Also, in the middle of your butcher paper, you should have a little palette. So this little kind of cardboard sheet is actually our palette where we'll be putting paint on. Also, now is a good time to put on some clothes you don't really like that much, something you're not afraid to get paint on. Maybe you have an apron like I do. If you have long sleeves, definitely roll them up. So this is acrylic paint we're working with today. So acrylic paint is really great. It's water-based, it dries really fast. But if it dries on your clothing, it's there forever. So keep that in mind, especially with surfaces like carpet or anything in your house that you're a little precious with. Definitely cover. Also, while we're prepping, go ahead and grab a little glass of water. This will be where our paintbrushes hang out during the class. And we have a couple of different kits out there. So your paintbrushes may look like mine, these blue guys. They might also be a little shorter like these two. I was painting with these a little earlier, if you can't tell. But just, get everything set up. Also, depending on which paint kit you ordered, you either have these cute little tubes or you have our little paint pots. So this is our paint mixer paint we teach when we're in studio. And these are just a little fun. You can kind of take them with you wherever you go. So go ahead and dollop out the paint colors we're going to be needing today. So for the deluxe kit, we'll be doing Viridian, Raw Umber, Ultramarine, Cobalt, White, and Crimson Red. I was doing some mountains earlier. That's what those are. But notice I don't have a lot of paint on the palette. You don't need too much to start. You can always reload if you need more. All right, so we have everything prepped. I'm just gonna kind of tell you how this works. So I'll be going step by step through this painting. And along the way, we'll kind of be doing the steps together, but it's kind of fun for you to, put on some music, rock out, have a snack. This is more about fun art than fine art. So just have some fun. All right, also, you will be working on a smaller canvas, an 8x10. I'll be doing this larger canvas over here, just so you can see a little better. So, are you guys ready to go? I'm gonna guess you said yes. Also, the little chat feature here on the YouTube Live, please chat any questions you may have. I think you have to be signed into YouTube in order to access that chat, so now's a good time to sign in. But for those of you who are all ready and stoked to start painting, go ahead and grab your canvas and the larger of your two brushes. I like to call it the mama brush. Mama is the bigger, baby is the smaller. And we are gonna cover this whole canvas with a variety of blues. So with the deluxe kit, you have ultramarine, which is this one. And you also have cobalt, which is this one. So cobalt's a little creamier, a little more opaque. But I want you to cover the entire canvas with these two blues, and you can even add some white in there. See how the white makes it a little lighter, a little more pastel. So for this first step, don't be afraid to have lots of brush strokes going on. It's kind of nice to have some texture in your background, not just like a solid, kind of boring color. Have some fun with it. Also, if you have the standard kit, the little paint pots, you'll be using phthalo blue, that's the color of your blue, and white mixed together. So I have two different kits in front of me, so I get to bounce between both of them. But basically, we want our whole canvas to be blends of blue and white with lots of brush strokes, lots of texture. And you may notice that if you don't have a lot of paint on your brush, it sounds like this. You really don't want it to sound scratchy. If you hear that scratchy sound, just add some more paint to your brush or add some more water to your brush. So the water is really great for these first steps to get in all the grooves of your canvas. Helps the paint spread nice and smooth. Sometimes I'll just go straight into the water with my brush and kind of just use a wet brush to spread out my paint a little thinner, kind of like watercolor. And another pro tip, as you're going along, covering the front of your canvas, do not forget the sides of your canvas. So your side edges are really important, especially since, you know, you're gonna hang this right above your bed or your mantle in your living room. So if your edges aren't painted, it looks kind of unfinished. But if they're painted, you don't need a frame, it looks really professional. And you guys are probably already done because your canvas is so small. I'm just gonna keep on going, nice and slow. This is a very apt painting for the seasons right now. I feel like things are really starting to bloom up where I live. And it's getting so hot. I don't know where you guys are today, but in Park City, Utah, it's like 80 degrees, which is crazy. Still May. Should be skiing in May. Also, you know, this process in this class, I'm just gonna be giving you suggestions, but you guys are the artists. So say you're going along and you're like, you know, I really want my background to be kind of muted and gray. And you can add gray in there. So you don't have to do exactly what I do. I can't even see what you're doing, so freestyle if you want. That's what I'd do. Almost full of color. And also, before we can move on from this blue step, our background has to dry. So if you're noticing any big fat globs of paint, like where the paint is really thick, like you're spreading peanut butter, maybe take this time to spread it out with a little water on your brush and just kind of smooth it out. Because if you're just waiting on your paint to dry, it's gonna be kind of boring. All right, looking very blue. Nice, so here's the example. Here's mine so far. Now, we do have to let this dry. So you can sit and watch paint dry, or you can just give it a little shake. This really speeds up the drying process, I promise. And it's fun. You can dance with it if you like, put on some tunes. Shake It Off is a good shaking song. I'm gonna set mine aside just to show you guys the tree branch technique while you're shaking. So you keep shaking, don't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. So once our canvas is all dry, I'm going to create the branch. This is pretty much where our pretty flowers are gonna rest. So on your palette, you should have raw umber. It's the dark kind of chocolatey brown. If you have the standard kit, there is like a little color guide so you can mix that same raw umber with the primary colors you have. So refer to that if you're not sure how to make this deep brown. But go ahead and practice if you want on the butcher paper. I'm just practicing right now, to be honest. So I'm going to be starting my branch down at the corner and angling it up. So things about tree branches is they're usually thickest towards the trunk, and then they get thinner as they go outward, right? I've never seen a branch that's thickest at the furthest point from the tree. So once I have kind of my main branch, then I'll just kind of add a couple little wiggly branches. And I'm using my mama brush just to show you, but please use the baby brush if you're feeling nervous. This gives you a lot of control, especially for those smaller branches. But a couple of things about tree branches, try to make them as random as you can. It's really hard. Like, for some reason, our brain wants us to order everything. So try your best to make your branches a little wonky, because nature is never perfect, right? All right, nice and easy. pretty much just like a bunch of little fingers that are thinnest at the top, thickest at the bottom. Another bit of advice, start lightly, start thin, because it's really easy to make something thicker or wider. It's really hard to shrink something. All right, so check on my dryness, give it a couple more shakes. If you're wondering how to see if your canvas is dry, if it's kind of shiny in some spots, see where the light reflects, that means it's still wet. You can always do the tap test. You might get some paint on your fingers. All right, well, mine is dry enough. So I am going to load up my Mama brush with the raw umber. And again, you're using a smaller canvas, so you'll be using the baby brush. But since I got this big kahuna, I have to, go a little bigger. So same deal, I'm going to start in the corner and angle upward like it's growing up towards the sky. And just starting kind of thick, trying to be a little random and wiggly with it. All right, we got the main branch. And this is another trick too. So once you have that main one on there, if you really lightly start at the furthest point and then add pressure as you come back in, it's a lot easier to have your line be really thin. You can start super lightly and then add more pressure. Well, add a couple more. There's no right or wrong number of branches. There's actually no right or wrong in anything that you're gonna do. It's really just what feels good. If you just want to finger paint, you can do that too. You don't have to make any branches. All right, we'll do a couple more. I find that trees are really challenging because each one is very different. And I think pine trees are probably my favorite tree to do, but like the regular kind of deciduous ones, I think are really challenging. Luckily, we only have one branch. You don't have to do a whole tree, thank goodness. All right, I'm gonna make mine a little thicker at the bottom. And I'm pretty happy about this. So, gotta let this dry again. So go ahead and start shaking once your tree branch is dialed in. And really, don't be afraid to practice on your butcher paper if you're really nervous for any step of this painting. And shake it out. And I'm going to introduce the paintbrush that we haven't talked about. It's kind of a sneaky paintbrush because it's not a paintbrush at all. But this is what we'll be using to get our really fun dappled texture. So if you look closely at the example, see all of that really funky, speckly texture we got going on? That is because we used the napkin. So go ahead and you can, half your napkin, you don't really need a whole one, but just with some part of your napkin, give it a good crumple. And this technique is called pouncing, like a cat. So our pouncing is going to be this motion, just like a little woodpecker. You don't want to smear, so I'll just kind of load this up with some white and blue to start. So check it out, little dabs, and it's like you're sponge painting. So try to avoid scraping, because then you get these weird like time warp space looking lines. But another key is to, instead of doing one random dot here and there, which gives you polka dots, start in one spot and radiate outward. So see how just kind of putting your effort in one spot and then letting the paint thin out around makes it look a little more natural than kind of this like funky polka dot thing going on. All right, so let's check out my branches. Definitely want these to be dry. So I'm gonna have to shake a bit more. With that pouncing technique, we're gonna go one color at a time. So if you look closely at the example, there's a couple colors. We have green, some like white, and really pale blue. There's also some pink. So just kind of think about if you want to use all those colors, or maybe you want to simplify it and just do a couple. I remember when sponge painting was really popular and everyone's mom was like sponge painting their bathroom. I want to say this was late 90s, early 2000s. And there was a lot of those like home renovation shows like Trading Spaces. I was very influenced by those shows. I was convinced I was going to be an interior designer. But no, instead just a painter. All right, getting there. Gotta shake it a little more, still wet. So also, while we're shaking, I'll just let you know the paint mixer, we are starting to offer some in-studio classes. So on Saturdays, we have open studio sessions at both studios, one in Salt Lake, one in Park City. And we also are doing private events. So think about small painting classes in your yard or at the studio. It could be your family, your friends, kind of private and small events. And we keep everything really spaced and safe. And it's just really fun to gather with a couple people and make some cool art. All right, I'm gonna start pouncing. It's a couple wet spots still, but the majority is dry. So, got my paper towel. The first color I'm gonna start with is a light blue. So white and blue mixed together, but mostly white. And I'm just going to kind of follow my branches. And remember, radiating out from that point, it kind of makes it look a little dreamy, a little misty. And you know what? If you pick up a little bit of brown, that's okay. I just noticed in the example that it looks like they did it on purpose, that they had some brown as one of their colors too. It's really subtle. Also, don't be afraid to take your pouncing further away from the branch. Like you can make it as intense or as light and subtle as you like. And if you have an easel, just be careful, because sometimes when you're bopping your canvas like this, it starts to bounce, and it'll bounce right off your easel. It's happened to me many a time. And if you ever, are pouncing and maybe the color is a little too intense, you can always just go over top of it with your background or your branch color. Acrylic paint is very forgiving. It can be like an eraser for something you don't like. All right. Also, I'm like freestyle dipping right now. Like I'm dipping a little in white, a little in blue. And I don't have too much paint on the napkin at all. It's like not much. A little goes a long way. But I like this because it starts to make the branches appear a little more subtle, a little more muted and masked. And don't forget this bottom part too. This needs some love. All right, I think I'm about ready for color number 2, which is going to be our Viridian Green. So that is the green that's kind of a teal. Really pretty, kind of springy green. So I'm just dabbing my napkin in there and kind of removing any excess so I don't have like a big blot. It's more kind of spread out. And just adding some green here and there. You know, I realized there's no actual leaves on this, just flowers and this texture. So your green can kind of act as your leaves or the texture of leaves. And as you're doing this, remember to step back from your painting every now and again. So like I'm gonna set this aside and look at it a little further away, and I'm gonna notice things I don't notice up close. So when I step back, I notice that, you know, it looks like I stopped halfway over here. So I need to put some more pouncing here on the edge. I promise when you step back, you're gonna see things. Sometimes when you get really nitpicky and kind of up close to your piece, you miss the big picture. All right, awesome. So since my napkin is green on this one side, I'm going to kind of fold it to the clean side for our pink. So pink is simply white and red mixed together. So go ahead and either with your towel, you might need to reload your white. I'm like almost out of white. So I got my towel and I'm just mixing up a nice pink with the crimson red and white, dabbing any extra off there so my napkin isn't soaked with paint. And hitting it with my final pouncing layer. And I like pink, so I might do this one a little heavy-handed because I just like it. But maybe you don't like pink. Maybe you had like a bad experience with Pepto-Bismol or something. You don't really like pink. Don't have to do it. Up to you. And if you ever run out of a color, please refill. You should have plenty of paint to cover your 8x10 canvas. Okay. Spreading it out. Oh yeah. Starting to look like a very springy tree. Okay, gotta let this dry for just a hot second. But keep pouncing if you are still in the zone. I'm just gonna show you a little flower tutorial. So I feel like everyone doodles flowers when they're little. So it's a very similar kind of setup here. It's just like a doodle. So with the baby brush, it's going to be white primarily and then a little red center. So let's see, I'm actually gonna do my mama brush just so you can see a little better. So going one petal at a time, using the shape of the brush. Okay, and then just a little red dab in the middle. And that's about it. Now, if you like pink, you can make your flowers pink and just kind of, this is a fun technique actually. So you take a little white on one side of your brush. See how I got white on the one side? And then red on the other side. It's like a little two-tone. Now check out what this does. So when I dab, it creates that cute little flower. So totally up to you. I think I'm gonna go between both. So finding my canvas and just adding flowers one by one. It's kind of tedious. Look how many flowers our example has. Whew, see how many I can do. So I'm using my mama brush because mine is a lot larger, but you are going to be using your baby brush for your flowers. Unless you're like, oh, I love flowers, I want them huge. Then please use whatever brush you like. Also, the flowers don't have to all be connected to a specific branch. Like they can be like in the middle. You can also do different color of flowers. Like maybe you like yellow. Add some yellow in there. And when the flowers get really small, they can, you don't need to have the most developed petals going on. Nice. And you probably are going to get in the zone here. Feel myself entering the flower zone. Where you come out 3 hours later and you're like, what just happened? Flowers! My grandma had the prettiest lilac tree growing up. And I feel like I have smelled, or not lavender, lilac tree. And I feel like I've smelled that a whole bunch this spring. It just reminds me of her and being a kid. I imagine this tree smells nice too. So check it out. I am stepping back from my piece and looking at it a little further away, and I'm noticing, oh my gosh, my flowers are all the same size, and they're all equally distanced from each other. And that's not good. Nature very rarely is that equal. So I'm going to do my best to try to make it a little more random, make some bigger, some really close to each other. They can even overlap and touch each other. That is very much allowed. A couple big kahunas in there. But it's amazing. Like your brain just wants order. But see if you can upset that order and make it a little more natural. Also, next time you're out walking around your neighborhood or in the park, you're going to notice when you look at trees that they are not ordered. Their branches are kind of random. And like I love big old cottonwoods and they're all bent sideways and they look like they've fallen over and somehow come back up again. And you know what? I might even just go ahead and do some straight dabs for like little flowers. Sound effects help too. If you find like a good flower sound effect. Oh boy, I think I'm getting close. So notice I am saving all the centers of my flowers for after. It's kind of like an assembly line. You go like all petals and then all centers. Makes life a little easier, I think. I hope I can see some of your guys's after this. And that's the cool thing is even though we are all technically doing the same painting, they're all going to be very different. And that is what we like. They're all the same. It is very boring. All right, check it out. There is the OG example. Here's mine. So all I need to do now is just add my little centers to the flowers, which are crimson red. And you know what? If you want to tone down that red a little bit, you can add a little bit of your dark brown. Makes it a little more mellow, a little less kind of cherry blossomy. And just find in the middles of each one, add little dabs. There are so many. You know, it'd be kind of cool is if you had your first layer of flowers like this, and then let it dry a little bit, and then put like a second layer. So there would just be an unbelievable amount of flowers. That'd be pretty cool. Kind of like a meditation. more about the process than the finished product. All right, let's see. Did I get them all? Just about. Okay, the final step of any painting, no matter what it is to sign it. So with your baby brush, and please take your time, but whenever you're ready, your baby brush and initials do the trick. Bottom right-hand corner is gallery standard. You gotta take some credit for all your hard work. So this video will be up indefinitely. So even if you need to press pause and rewind, it'll be there for you and whoever else wants to paint this afterwards. So make sure you share with your friends and keep track of what the paint mixer is up to as we reopen throughout the summer, and just different creative offerings. So it could be more things at home for you to do with your family and friends. It could also be maybe escaping for a little private party at the studio. So keep us in mind whenever you're planning small get-togethers this summer. And I really appreciate you guys joining me today. Thank you so much. And let me put our Instagram name in the chat box so that you can share your work on Instagram at @the_paint mixer. And I would love to see your work. Thanks again and have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.